We wanted to go ahead and get started. What did I title this? What they don't teach you about flipping houses. Now, I know a lot of us see things on YouTube, on Instagram. I should more so say Instagram. Quick little things. Um, we were having a conversation with somebody the other day. Me and Tamit were chatting with somebody, and they were saying something that they had learned. For them to find out that they didn't get all the full details. So today, I want to bring on Mr. Lawson so that he could let you all know a little bit of insight in his experience. Mr. Lawson of Lawson Solutions, Infinity Taxes. Okay. And so I want y'all to welcome him. Put some hand claps or whatever in the chat. Y'all share the link, share, like, what is it? Share, like, subscribe, whatever it is. But hello, Mr. Lawson. We're so excited to have you on. We being me.
Lee, thank you so much. You are amazing and blessing, and just providing the information to the community is what we need. So letting the masses know how to actually support each other with the network we have. So thank you for what you're doing and for your platform. So we appreciate it. We meaning me.
So listen, y'all, you know what I was actually going to do? I was going to surprise Doug with some I think I can still do it, y'all. I was going to surprise Doug with some quick a photo or a video of actually one of the flips that he did, which looks amazing. I want to show y'all. But Doug, tell them just a little bit before I show them. Tell them oh my gosh, what's the first thing I even want to ask you? Okay, tell your experience, I guess overall, maybe on house flipping. Do I want to say land investing? Because I know you bought some plots as well. And just like rental properties, investing in those. Like, tell us your overall experience, I guess.
It's been a journey. I would say that you have to really be careful and cautious, and you also have to be aggressive and just willing to just kind of step out there. So a little bit of both is what was needed in my journey. And to make lots of money and to lose lots of money in the real estate market has shown me the way of having proper networks, having proper partners and investors, having proper mentors, and then just not looking at what they post on Instagram or social media to assume that's the gospel.
Right.
It's like literally understanding that you have to do your own due diligence and research, and you're going to experience some bumps and bruises. No two flips are alike. And that was the one thing I did learn, that every flip is going to be different than the last one. And you have to just be prepared, going into it with an open mind and just being ready to learn as you grow and as you go.
I'm gonna show the folks. Hopefully y'all can see here. Good, y'all can. I wanted to surprise Doug with this one. I had this in my cellular device.
Oh my goodness!
Listen, I want y'all to see. Hopefully there's no sound. Okay, good. This was one of the properties. This was one of the first properties that I saw Doug do. Now this was from what I saw. He's obviously done this before I, even came around. But Doug, when did you get your real estate license, by the way?
2007.
2007.
Yep. All these gray hairs, that's from the real estate market. You see these? That's the real
I was
estate
going to
market.
crack a joke, but I said,
I knew you was.
The place.
But see, it's only because I know you personally why you can joke with me. So otherwise, you're not allowed to do that. Everybody else, y'all better watch out.
But I want y'all to see what it was that he did. And I was trying to find some before photos, but listen, y'all don't even know, this kitchen wasn't even open like this, right, Doug? Wasn't it like closed off?
Yep.
And so he opened it up. Like, tell me, like, as an investor, as somebody that goes in with the idea of, I'm going to go into this property and I want to buy specifically to turn it over to generate more income on the other side. Like, when you go into these properties, like, what mind frame with, what are some things you look for, and how do you say, this is what I want to do with it?
You take into consideration what your cap rates and what your numbers are going to look like. And you consider who your end buyer is going to be. So one of the things, like you just showcased that kitchen, we understood that this was going to be a product and a property for a homeowner just to kind of live as an owner occupant, not an investor, somebody that is going to make this their home. So
Mhm.
get a home. Typically, you have a two-home household, husband and wife, and a woman of a household typically wants to make sure that their kitchen and their bathrooms are stellar. So no
Oh.
end user is going to look at, you must make sure you put extra care and exposure into the bathrooms and into your kitchen, because as
Mm.
a woman in a household, that's where they spend most of their time, in the kitchen, the bathroom, and their living room. Men are either in their garage or in the front yard or in the backyard. So you want to think about what is the model of who is going to make the real decision, because of course, you ladies are the decision makers in the household ultimately, even though we may be,
Right.
you make the final decision as to where we're going to live and rest our head and how you're
Mhm.
going to take care of our home. So you have to think all of this through from A to Z before you spend a dollar. What does it cost to actually renovate and to do this type of product? What's going to be your beginning entry and what's going to be your exit? And then also how much you're going to pour into it. So that kitchen that we did was based upon us going to an end user with either a single or a two-family household. It was actually a 55 and older community. So we know we wanted to make it accessible to somebody that may be either
Right.
disabled or getting older. A first floor unit,
Mm.
wider doorways, wider walkways, because that kitchen was actually boxed in and blocked off. So we opened it up so it's easier to navigate, especially for some of our seniors or somebody, an aging adult community.
I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see if I have a little bit of an idea so that people can see. Oh, I found some good stuff.
Oh, goodness.
Wow, I never knew that. I actually never heard you say that. So I was actually I was actually seriously intently listening, because when you say um first of all, you have to think about who you're even going to be selling to,
Right.
first and foremost. And you said something in the beginning. You said going in, understanding that you're going to be selling this to a family, not an investor. Like, can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what's the mind frame around that?
So an investor is really just going to be dollars and cents. They're going to be looking at their cap rates and what's the max they can rent it for and what's going to be their investment dollar. A family is going to be looking to make this their home. They're going to maybe pay a little bit more than an investor would, because they're going to invest into the property since they're not going to be renting anymore. They're going to be actually owning and building equity. So now the goal is to determine, how do you actually cater to them? The level of care that you put into the house, the level of investment that you put into the house. You may do a little bit more upgrades. I may do, marble or granite in a house versus an investment property that I may not want to put as much into it because I'm trying to turn a higher dollar amount.
Mm.
And something maybe a little bit more durable besides the granite or the marble. Because if it's like a rental property, you know that renters, as you know, they tend to not take as much care of the property. And
Right.
sometimes the owners have to replace and flip. I'll never put carpet in a rental property. I'll always do hardwood, tiles, or laminate,
The
because I
last
know that
longer.
it's a little bit harder on the property. So those are
Mm.
things that you want to take into consideration, the type of end user you're going to have. Because if it's just going to be a rental unit, you're not going to put as much amenities into, as much product into that property that you would with kind of a rental property.
Doug, let me ask you this. The biggest what would be the biggest mistake you've made when it comes to flipping a house or investing in a house or anything within that realm,
Right.
and how to avoid it?
Not doing my due diligence, not
Mm.
preparing myself, and not knowing what the cost would be, not really understanding what I was going to be investing into this property, because I was just told it was going to be a good deal. Hey, this is a great deal. You should buy it. Okay. Didn't properly check the comps, didn't do a proper inspection, just jumped on because somebody told me to buy it and it was a good deal.
Right.
And ended up getting burned because I didn't do my due diligence based upon, the hearsay of what somebody else had to say about it. And
Mm.
ultimately I took a major loss because I had to sell it for less than I actually purchased, because
Oh
not only
man.
did I invest more into the property, but also the market ended up turning, which we've seen every 7 to 10 years. This market
Right.
either will have peaks and valleys. So you need to know what's happening. So we'll talk a little bit more about what's happening in the economy, what's
Mm.
happening within government and races, and what's happening within communities, because different development in communities affect the values of your properties. Different
Yeah.
schools, different level schools, they affect the value of your property. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. But I would
Mm.
honestly say my biggest mistake was not doing my due diligence and not being prepared before spending money.
Mm. Yeah.
And
That
ultimately, it ended up burning me. So it was fool me once, shame on shame on
okay.
you. but I'm not going to get fooled again. So
Yeah.
ultimately, my goal was to make sure I am prepared going in.
Yeah. And I guess that would consist of, because I remember I went with you before you started the renovation process,
Mhm.
and the whole thing was, okay, what's gonna happen with the kitchen?
Right.
Y'all need to come in and look at this because I'm gonna need to know how much this is. Like, well, how much is the house selling for? Is there
Right.
anything outstanding on the home? What else needs to be taken care of? There's going to be a family coming in here. So, this needs to be fixed before they come in, because for y'all that are on, there's going to be an inspection that happens prior to the house being sold. And so, there are things that you want to do to make sure that are good on the home, and things that you want to check before even potentially buying the home, so that, when I'm ready to flip this, nothing's going to hold me up and, stop me from what it is that I'm doing. I got another question for you. It's like rapid fire right now. Okay.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I came ready.
Okay. The one thing that I found very interesting that you did, was when I found out that you bought some plots of land.
Yep.
Can you tell me your thoughts behind that?
So we're not growing any more land. This is not like, growing vegetables, fruit.
Mm-hmm.
This is not produce, or not developing, or printing shirts. There is a block of land that is in this country, and it's not going to increase. So ultimately, we need to get a piece of the pie. Real estate, I've always determined, is the best form of investment because it's always appreciating, and it always is going to have equity growth depending on how you invest into it. Land is definitely something. With us having a crisis and shortage of doors here in Palm Beach County, you've noticed that there's a lot of programming for helping with homeowners and home
Right.
ownership, and also renters, because they want to make sure that we're providing the doors necessary, because we had an influx of people move to the state over the last 3 to 5 years. Post pandemic, COVID has affected so many people, especially Northerners and out of state, moving into Florida. But for years, it's always had a steady increase because of the zero sales tax, because of the sunny South Florida,
Mm-hmm.
364 out the year. It's sunny in this community. So you got to consider that there's always going to be potential for real estate investing. So trying to gobble up as much land as possible, and trying to have as much ownership as possible, because development is becoming easier because they want to make sure they've addressed the housing crisis, especially here in Palm Beach County.
Mm.
So
Okay.
you have to take into consideration, if you have easier or lower rates and
Mhm.
less money, that you're less interest on the dollars that you're spending, whether it's grant funding, whether it's first time home buyer programs, whether it's going to be a Live Local Act, which is something that the state of Florida has enacted for investors and developers. Those are ways of actually to take money with lower interest than you would just going to a bank, and also grant funding to help build some of these properties, and gives you more value for bang for your buck on the value of your dollar.
Yeah. And along with what Doug is saying, everyone, and listen, if you're on, we're on for another 10 minutes. So I want you all to drop any questions that you have, or share this, or whatever it is that you need to do. Um, Along with what Doug is saying, the reason why I love the fact that he like bought those plots of land is because, just like he was saying, there's not any more land. We can't, like, we're not growing land. We're not creating, well, I was gonna say we're not creating land, but some people tearing down buildings. But anyway,
They tearing down building, but
that's a whole
it's still the same land. Even if
it's
you
still
have
the
it's
same
still the
land.
same
It's still
land.
the same land.
No matter how
And they
many
gotta
times you
build
build
on
on
it and
top of
tear it
that or
down.
tear it down, it's the same
Right.
land.
Right.
Yep.
It's still the same land. So then what I'm saying stands. And so, the whole thing that I look at is this. At the end of the day, um, somebody needs to own it. Whether you feel like, whether you know who it is or not know who it is, or what have you, you have the opportunity and the ability. And this is aside from just purchasing, the house built itself. Purchase the land, because at the end of the day, if somebody wants to build on that, either they gonna have to buy it from you or pay you to build on that plot of land. And so you have to understand, like, you have to understand the power in owning plots of land, owning property, owning these different things. Because, like, for instance, I was talking to somebody the other day, Doug, and they were telling me that their parent wanted to sell their home.
Hmm.
And I was trying my hardest not to put my little 2 cents in. But I said, does she have to sell it?
Yeah.
Like, does she want to rent it out? And they were like, well, we thought about it, but it because they don't have those things like readily available. Like, it's not like, oh, I want to rent out my house, so I'm gonna go and find an agent and I'm gonna do this and blah blah blah. Like, people are not thinking like that only because they're not in that world. For us, it's easy for us to say, oh, well, we'll just rent it and blah. But I'm noticing that there are people out there, they're just selling their homes because they're just like, whatever. But what I want to instill, and I know, Doug, you're the same way. Like, we all have to understand that these are things that can be passed down. And so instead of selling it, heck, let it be. And the house was paid off. Let it be an income generating asset.
So you're gonna make me go on my soapbox because that is
Go on the soapbox, Doug.
generational wealth is something that we as a community and a culture and a people haven't learned. Remember,
Yeah.
we're 1 or 2 generations out of slavery.
Right.
We had to fight for every bit of piece that we have. I'm first generation here from this country. My family had to migrate from Jamaica to the United States to have a better way for me and my brother to sustain and to live. I've been alienated in certain communities just for saying, "Oh, I'm not from here," because my great grandparents didn't grow up here, and unfortunately, they had to try to just get away to make sure that we could sustain and live and have a better life. So I'm appreciative of the support that I've got from my people, my community, my culture. But we haven't been taught that. Government agencies were created to help other races and classes of people to help uplift and to build wealth and growth. They have 99-year leases that they negotiate with government agencies, not for the lifespan of themselves, but for the lifespan of their grandchildren, to make sure that they forever have ownership and equity in certain communities. I've seen how they take advantage of the cycle and the process they put in place, and that's why I got into governance, is to make sure that we can set policy that helps impacts individuals that look like you and I to help generational wealth. So that same person, it's your responsibility, Lee, to tell that family, don't sell that land.
Right.
Let's find opportunities or other options for you to hold on to it. Your grandparents, your great grandparents, anybody else that has a property. Don't do those reverse mortgages.
Yeah.
Don't just sell. The problem is you have families who have never seen this amount of money ever in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So they fought so hard to get to this level, but they want to go ahead and enjoy it. They want to capitalize on the equity that they have. And some of the kids and grandkids just don't have the investment or the involvement. When I got elected, I told everybody, buy as much property in Riviera Beach as possible. As the elected official in Riviera Beach for 6 years, I knew what was coming because I've seen what they've tried to do for the last 20 years.
Right.
So you have to understand value and equity is always going to continue to grow. And we need to keep that so that your great grandkids can sustain and also use that generational wealth that you created for them when you first started with investing. So that's a reminder, Lee. Tell those families, do not sell those houses. Let's find other options and alternatives. Let's take some equity out of the house and do some investment into real estate. If you want to kind of, go on a little trip or a cruise, you can take a little bit to help with that.
Right.
But don't sell. Don't put yourself in a position. Build onto your house and Airbnb it out. There's different options that can kind of help you with still sustaining, keeping that asset in the family. And if you do sell it, use it to buy something else.
Yeah.
Use it to invest. Use it to continue to keep a piece of that pie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I was even talking about this past Sunday, I was telling folks, no, it wasn't me. I heard somebody say this. He said, your money should be producing you more money.
Mm-hmm.
That this is what your money should be doing. When you are thinking about putting your money into something, it should be giving you some form of return, some form of monetary return that can help you to build upon the money that you have. Money should be looked at as a tool. Not something that is just disposable. Like, it should be looked at as something as a tool. And so, I'm realizing a lot of people in our communities, Black and brown communities, the first thing we think of doing with these properties is selling, because we get into these modes of fear or we get into these modes of need. And so our first thing to do is, I'm just going to sell it. But it's like, we don't see the value of this property. If somebody has a home, this is what I did with this family. I literally pulled up comps in the same development. and I showed them what the other homes comparable to what they have were going for. It was rent from 1900 all the way up to 2500. The same exact house. If you have a house or an apartment or condo townhome that's $2,000 a month, that's what, 24,000 a year. What is that over the next 5 years? Hold on. That's $120,000 over the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who are retired that may do a little job here and there. $24,000 a year, they can do stuff with that if they live in another home or property or whatever that's paid off. There's so many different ways. Even if they get 2,400, they're paying $1,000 in rent. If they're 55 plus, there are different ways to do these things, and it can just be passed down to who's coming afterward. Don't even think about yourself. Think about who's coming after you.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing as well.
And those flips, and that just to kind of pivot back to the flips, a lot of the real estate flips that I do is just to build equity and assets to invest into more real estate. If I see the potential of a property, I may flip it or sell it, but then I use the capital and the value of what I earned from that flip to possibly buy land, to buy an investment property, to buy something that's going to give me passive income. Most millionaires are created through multiple streams of income. You need to establish at least 7 different streams. I'm very passionate about real estate. You have other investments or other vehicles that are out there when it comes to the stock market, when it comes to small business establishment, when it comes to cryptocurrency, when it comes to any type of business. You have to think about creating those streams to create wealth for yourself. But if we're talking about real estate and real estate flips, you can do these flips, but what's the purpose of actually doing it? You want to do it to build equity and to gain some value and to actually get your cash up. But what are you going to do with that cash once you receive it? That's my question, and that's my goal. For example, the flip that you actually showed earlier, I was able to sell that and invest it into another property and start building on that lot. Well, you found this video. Look at you.
I got to show the people your work now. They got to see what I'm talking about.
So this one was another one that we did in that same community. We sold this one down in Lake Worth. Just to give you guys some numbers, we bought this one for $165,000. We put about $40,000 into it and ended up selling it for $278,000. So it was able to earn me about 32% profit on the investment after all expenses, real estate commissions, title work, making sure that the staff was paid. The biggest thing that I have to tell people about these flips is understanding that the flip market, you have to be prepared and cautious, having a strong team, having the proper contractors that come in that know what they're doing, because that's what can burn you on a lot of these projects. You have to make sure that you're not going to have somebody that's just going to disappear on you, because you know that these contractors, they start a project. Sometimes they'll either walk off the job, they'll disappear for 2-3 days because everybody's trying to make a buck. So you got to have a solid, strong team around you to make sure that those investment flips are done properly as part of that due diligence. Don't just get any Tom, Dick, or Harry off the street to say, I'm going to purchase, have you flip this house for me, and you've never done work with them. You've never seen their work. You got to get somebody that's quality work and that's going to give you a great end product. Yeah, this one came out really beautiful.
This was the final. I couldn't search dig in my phone, y'all, but I wanted to at least show you the end product of that kitchen that you just saw.
Yep.
So that kitchen that you just saw all broken down, this was
we opened it up because open floor plans is something that's big and that sells properly. So this actually had a closed off wall that we tore down on that last one that you showed with this. So this is another model, a different one that we did. And we use a lot of the same material. And my contracting team, they're solid. So you want to make sure you have the right contractors with you to help build these properties, because you need to do it within a timely fashion and within budget. Because you can't start a project and then all of a sudden, it's going to cost you 10, 20, 15% more because somebody forgot to do proper measurements or somebody forgot to include the price of X, Y, and Z. You need to do your due diligence and be prepared. And then leave some buffer or some room, space in case something does happen, because something always happens.
Doug, I want you to, oh man, dang, we might have to do a round 2 of this. I want you to leave the folks with some nuggets. Usually I get questions on here. I don't know where everyone's at, but I want you to leave the folks with a couple nuggets. I know that I know that somebody asked me the other day. He said, "So how do I what did he say to me? He said something like, "How do I know how much money I'm going to get?" And I said, "Well, that depends on so many factors. How
Yep.
much is the property? What needs to be done to the property?
Yep.
How much did you put into it? Like, there's so many different things. So maybe give them like a couple notes on either how to get started or some nuggets or what have you."
So everybody says, oh, I'm going to go get my real estate license to do a flip. You don't need a real estate license. You need good quality agents and realtors, because you getting your license doesn't help you with the flip. What it does is it helps you with kind of saving a little bit of money on the real estate commission. But how the market has changed when it comes to payouts and compensation for agents in regards to real estate commissions, a lot of sellers aren't obligated to actually pay that buyer's agent anymore just because of our new state law. So unfortunately for realtors, it's not as beneficial to get your license to do real estate flips. But with the real estate agent and a seasoned agent, they know the market. They understand what the market is doing, what's happening within the area of schools, education, government agencies, and also what's the buying trends. So you want to be prepared to understand everything and every nuance within this property before you even consider picking up your wallet to spend that money. So what's going on? What development is happening? How long have the properties been on the market? What are they selling for? If I buy this at a steal or a deal, how can I actually improve it to sell it to someone else? Because if you buy it for 10, 20, 50% less than market value, why are you getting it at that? There's a reason. Because that last person either didn't want to renovate it, was going through an estate sale, or there was a reason behind why they're selling it for less than market. Now you have to consider, what is it going to take to get it up to market price? How much do I have to put into it? That's where your contractors come in, your handyman, your maintenance guys, the individuals that's going to come in and renovate. Because not just a coat of paint and some flooring is not going to sell the unit. Because if it could have sold the unit, the last person that owned it would have sold it for the higher dollar amount. So flips typically require a good eye, good vision, and a good team around you. Because if you're not a contractor, or if you don't actually do real estate construction work, you may not know how much it takes. You may have renovated your house or your bathroom at your house, but you don't really know what it takes to do everything in the home. Flooring price per square foot. What does it cost to actually paint? I used to be able to paint a room for $50-$60. Now the room is costing $225 per room. So you're thinking about what's the cost of material, cost of labor, and cost of time to actually get it done, because your money is going to be held out for 30, 60, 90 days, depending on how long it takes to renovate, flip, and to get the property sold. Last, taking in consideration associations. HOAs can, be a nightmare when it comes to, trying to flip or sell a house, because that last one that you showed, it took me an additional 45 days because of the association approval. So that was a nightmare, where I didn't expect to be waiting another almost 2 months to sell that property, because they have to go through the hoops and hurdles of an HOA. So be mindful when you're doing your flips, be careful, because they have a lot of rules and regulations that they put in place to stop people from doing these flips. And also, home buyers, you have to be an owner in certain HOAs for 1 or 2 years prior to being able to sell. So there's a lot of regulations that you have to look at. But in regards to the money and the aspect, do all of your recon. If you're buying something cash, or you're buying something quickly because it was a good steal or deal, take that inspection period of at least 7 days to figure out everything about the property. Labor costs, construction costs, liens, everything that you can take into consideration that's going to affect your bottom dollar.
Yeah. And I know some of y'all are even in different states. Really and truly, I'll just tack one thing on there. Find somebody that you trust. Sincerely, people that you trust. I have seen how things like this can go left so quick, just because you might have somebody that's a little money hungry, or you have somebody that don't know what they're talking about, but they want to act like they know what they're talking about. And next thing you know, you're spending $10,000 to $15,000 more than you expected to, because you trusted somebody that you shouldn't have.
You always want to get multiple quotes on everything you're doing, even if it's a close friend or a family, because I've seen close friends that charge way more than somebody that's been in the business or market for many years. That same kitchen I got priced about $3,000 or $4,000 more by some people I've worked with in the past,
Mhm.
because some people were a little bit hungrier to get some work done, and that were in a position where they weren't just counting my personal pockets. Oh, Lawson, you got it, so don't worry about it. No, 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 no. I'm trying to make sure I get the best bang for my
Right.
buck with this investment. I want to give you the work, but I'm not just going to give away the asset or the equity or the additional money that's coming from that deal just because we're friends. So
Yeah.
get multiple quotes, do business with your network because you keep a strong network, but just do fair and quality business with people. Don't try to take advantage of people, and don't put them in a position to where they're taking advantage of you.
Yeah. Well, Doug, this was fire. Dang. I almost feel like you just did like a little mini masterclass.
Oh, listen, my dog Tara James just chimed in and asked about funding. We didn't even touch on or address funding.
We didn't.
And one of the things, and I have my live up, and there's a bunch of questions on here that I wanted us to get to,
Oh,
but
really?
we need to,
Let
yeah,
me let me go on your side.
yeah. So we need to, we'll double back,
You
because
want
what
to
I want
double
to do,
back?
I want to do a part two, because we want to kind of address different aspects and
Yeah.
components of flipping, funding, and resources and assets. Because like Tara, one of my classmates from
Mm.
high school, amazing young lady. Funding is something that you use. You can use networks. You can use hard money. You can use your credit. You can use stated income. I think you had a mortgage broker on here just the other day talking about funding.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've personally done is I've used equity from properties to help with assisting. If you don't have or own property, I've used networks of people, hedge
Hmm.
funds, sources. One of my close friends and my buddy Terry that I've grown up with, I'll lean on him to say, let's do this property together. Another fraternity brother I grew up with, I said, listen, you have some assets and equity. You said earlier, Leanne, don't let your money just sit there. Have it
Yeah.
always making you more money.
Yep.
So somebody that's got 20, 30, 50K just sitting in the bank, let's
Mhm.
partner together to go ahead and use those funds to build and to grow a network
Right.
together. So checking with people that maybe have a couple of dollars to say, let's
Hmm.
partner, let's associate, let's build this together. I'll do the legwork. I'll put the sweat equity in, and you fund it for me. So
Hmm.
there's so many ways of having cash available, because you have individuals that have that money sitting under the mattress. Grandma got 50K,
Yeah.
100K sitting in the
And
bank.
you don't
And
even
she,
know.
right. Like I told mom the other day, like, you have a lot of money just sitting there. You need to go
Hmm.
ahead and have it
Yeah.
making you more money. But you need to be safe and cautious with that, because you
Yeah.
need to have a trusted network. I can go to people like Terry and lean on him to say, hey, I need $50,000 for us to invest together.
Mhm.
But he trusts me because I haven't burned him or putting him in a
Right.
position.
I was
We
just
haven't,
about to say,
we
take
haven't,
care of them
you
relationships.
take care of them relationships. Now, we haven't made a profit on every return, but a substantial amount of them, I've done my due diligence so that, he's more up than down.
Yeah.
So there's so
Well,
many different opportunities with that. I mean, taking out the money from your own home uh, is something that I tell people to be very careful and cautious, especially your primary.
yeah.
So Tara put in HELOCs. That's a great opportunity. Take a home equity line of credit. That's a HELOC on your house.
Hmm.
We've had the value of increased so much on properties that you have one, two, three, 400,000 sitting there that you could use as an investment tool. And HELOCs, they have adjustable or adjusting rates on interest, where you can use it almost like a credit card. I've used some of my credit cards to go buy a property before. So that's another process that we can talk about funding. And we'll go ahead and, jump into that another day.
Yeah. Y'all, we're definitely gonna do a part two. I want y'all to go back and look at some of the videos that I've done over the past couple of weeks. There's been like so much good info. Everybody's talking about something different. I want y'all to even follow Doug. Listen, follow him on Facebook, Douglas Alexander Lawson on Facebook, on Instagram. I think it's Lawson Solutions with an S, one or something like that.
Lost
Something
solutions
like
with that. Yep.
Lawson Solutions. I want y'all to go and follow him and see what he's doing. But before we get off, I gotta ask one question that I know everybody want to know, so I just gotta sprinkle it in there real quick. Doug, if you could just let us know, now you are now after this council person seat. What are your plans for the 2025 year?
Take care of my beautiful daughter, my amazing wife, and keep building and growing business and building relationships. My goal is to continue to help my community as I've always done. I have a newborn, so I've been enjoying her as much as possible, and I'm going to be rushing back over to her now. We're having a chili cook-off at the city of Riviera Beach, which is pretty dope. So if anybody's watching, run over to Fire Station 87 over at the City Hall site. They're having a chili cook-off until 3 o'clock. So That's my biggest thing right now. And with governments, I was honored to serve for 6 years as commissioner for District 5. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue due to some issues with the filing and technicality within government. But I'm honored to just keep serving. So I'm just excited to see what God has in store for me.
So y'all keep a lookout. Y'all check out what Doug is doing. And I want y'all to follow him. Follow me on Instagram, Luxwell Co, Facebook, Leanne Collymore Realtor. YouTube is where all of my replays are located. So if you want any other information, if you're interested in the SHIP funds, Palm Beach County allocated $3 million to go to first-time home buyers, up to $100,000 per family. If you are interested in that, go to my YouTube channel and find that, or just go on my Facebook page. See you all later.
Big
What?
shout out real quick before I do go. I just want to make sure that I did do real estate for the last almost 18 years now. And I've actually, for the first time in many years, partnered with a firm, Superstar Appraisal and Realty.
Yes.
Big shout out to my fraternity brother and my partner, Larry Jones. So if anybody has any needs, we are here. Leanne, your brokerage, what's the firm you're with?
Canvas.
Canvas Real Estate is awesome. But you guys see, Superstar Realty, Canvas Realty, we work together. We build relationships. We trust each other, support each other, because our goal is to uplift each other. So big shout out to our team. We are here to help you guys. We're providing this information. Leanne, like I started with earlier, thank you for providing the platform to everybody that's out there watching and understanding and learning how to grow together, because we need to work together. Regardless of what where you are, what silo you're in, let's operate as a unit and as a family. Building kingdoms, as you would say.
Don't say that, because I'll get to preaching on here.
We gotta go. We ain't
Yeah,
got time.
we gotta go, y'all. You gotta go. See you all later. Y'all share, like, subscribe. Bye.
Thank you, guys.